Well, welcome out there once again to my program. Always a pleasure to be here, and always a pleasure to have you out there watching. I know you watch. I get people who tell me that they've seen this show or that show, and they find it to be interesting, which is nice to hear. I have a couple of guests on this program, one who has been on many times before, and someone else who is, we might say, brand new to my program. We're going to talk about some interesting subjects. We're going to talk about a question that's going to be on a ballot on November 4th. You might have received a brochure from the state in the mail that has 4 questions, but my guest is going to discuss a 5th question, which will be on a Fall River ballot. It apparently pertains to Fall River only, and she will explain that. And also I have a state representative, and we're going to be talking about some of the state issues. So we're going to mix it all up. We're going to have a nice show. There'll be a lot of good things to hear and learn about. And I always learn something from my guests. So, Representative Carole Fiola, welcome again.
Thank you.
You've been on a number of times. How are things at the state these days?
Well, things have been quite busy, Richard.
Watching
Thank you.
over our money?
Well, watching over money, programs, services, organizations. It's been quite an experience, my 1 year in office.
So 1 year now?
One year. We just came up on the 1 year anniversary.
Okay. And you're up for re-election, I understand?
I am. As you know, last September 25th, I was sworn in, and I took over halfway through the term to replace David Sullivan. So that was halfway through a term, and so I've completed the 1 remaining year, and it's already election year again. It's unbelievable.
B. Martins, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I
How's
want
your
to thank you
husband?
for letting me come on the show today.
You're quite welcome. Your husband is Joe. He's on the school committee,
Yes, he is.
and he's a good school committee person.
I know he's very
Attested by the
dedicated.
voters who vote him #1 each and every time. So let's start off with is this an unusual type thing? In other words, having a question on a ballot just for the people of Fall River? Is that how it is?
Well, I need to clarify a little bit
Okay.
for you. Question 5 is a public policy question, and so it's not a law. Questions 1 through 4 are binding. Is that correct, Carole?
Yes, because I've just only recently been aware of this that you're
Yes.
going to talk about,
Yeah.
because 1 through 4 are a binding
Right.
question.
State questions.
Yeah, and as Richard said, the Secretary of the Commonwealth sent out this booklet that explains questions 1 through 4, so that the voters get an opportunity to really understand them, whereas question 5 is not. Question 5 came about, it's a public policy question, and
Now,
it's,
let me ask you this. Will this question be on other cities and towns?
yes, it will. That's what I was going to explain to you. Question 5 is a public policy question that's directed at legislators, particular legislators. We chose 11 districts around the state from different geographical areas. And what question 5 will do, it will give the voters an opportunity to tell their representative how they feel about this particular issue. So in our area, the Greater Fall River area, it's Representative Carole Fiola's district, the 6th district, which is Fall River and Freetown. There is Alan Sylvia's district, which is the 7th, which is the south end of Fall River. And then Representative Paul Schmid, which is District 8, kind of slices up the east side of Fall
Yeah.
River. He has all of Westport and some of Freetown. And believe it or not, he even has a slice of New Bedford. He has a very expansive district. Each of them represent 50,000 people.
Well, let me ask you this. So is this sort of like an advisory question?
That's
In other words,
exactly what it is.
If the people respond to this in a very favorable way by voting, I would imagine yes, then that question or this policy issue would then be translated in a sense to the representatives who will say, well, maybe there's something here we ought to look at closer.
That is exactly the direction that we're looking for. We wanted to educate people on an issue that we found out about. And so if I can give you a little background
yeah,
about how it
sure.
came about. In 2007, a young woman by the name of Laura Hope Smith died after she had an abortion. After the abortion procedures were finished, the doctor at that time left the facility, and her heart stopped. Sadly, the staff that was there was not trained on CPR. The blood pressure cuff was not working. They had no heart monitoring equipment. And they did not even call 911. So this took place in 2007, right here in Massachusetts, in Hyannis. The doctor tried to cover it up. He falsified the CPR records. He then went out and bought oxygen equipment. And then he also bought a defibrillator, and he rearranged his office. Of course, when the law enforcement did their investigation, they were able to find the records of when he had done this and realize that he had falsified all of this. Apparently, this doctor was more interested in profits than in having his facility licensed and inspected. The Guttmacher Institute, which tracks...
Well, but
go ahead.
the thing is, though, what is the essence of the question?
Okay.
In other words, voters who go into the booth November 4th, people from Fall River and elsewhere, they're gonna read that question. What is the? Do you have the question?
I have the question.
Do you want to read it, or you want?
I can read it and I can hold it up. I don't know if they can see it.
Can we get a close-up of the question?
Is that possible?
It doesn't look like it's getting too close. Of the question.
Well, they can cover my head.
No.
I don't.
Drop it down a little, see? Okay, there it
Okay.
is, right there. Just put, that's it, okay.
Yeah, I wish I could do
All
this right.
right.
Okay, I'll read the question.
Yeah,
all right?
go ahead.
The question asks, shall the state representative from this district be instructed to vote in favor of legislation that requires all non-hospital facilities performing more than 10 abortions a year to be licensed as clinics and to be inspected at least every 2 years by the Massachusetts Department of Health?
Okay, so that's going to be on the ballot in Fall River. That's not a complicated question.
It's a what, sir?
It's not a complicated question.
No. To be honest with you, I truly wonder if this is an oversight on the part of the legislature. And
Because it's not a law already.
Right. I think when I think of doctors and when I think of medical facilities, you think that they'd be licensed and they'd be inspected. And
Especially if they're going to do abortions, which is kind of a delicate issue.
This is a licensed doctor. Okay, this is a licensed doctor. So this should be a trust factor, that when you see a licensed doctor, that he cares about you more than he cares about profit. Oh, yeah. And sadly, this is not the case. And why I say I think it could be an oversight is that the legislature has done a really good job on other fronts. For example, tanning booths. We've heard of stories where people have gone in and have gotten hurt by them. Well, the legislature responded, and they made sure that all tanning booths are licensed, and they're inspected every 6 months, which is awesome.
Yeah, Carole, what do you make of this?
Well, I think that's right about tanning booths, and I think, like anything else, you want medical procedures to be safe and effective for all. And certainly as a woman, that's very important to me to make sure all procedures are for women and men and children are performed safely. So the good thing is you don't want any procedure to be conducted by anyone that is not licensed. And so a doctor has to be licensed to perform any type of medical procedure. So thank goodness that is the case. And I think probably, I don't know the history. I've just learned about this really about a week ago, in any depth, because as you said, it's not on the book and it's not something that was a binding referendum. So I think should it pass, which sounds very much like it probably could, and we'll take a look at these things. And these things are such that you want to make sure you're doing the right things for people's health and safety.
So, B, are you looking for a bill to come out of this? Is that
in the beginning of the next legislature session in 2015, Massachusetts Citizens for Life will be putting forth a bill to ask that all facilities that do more than 10 abortions a year would be licensed and inspected. And so we'll be looking for these representatives where their people have spoken hopefully positive, that they might be open to being co-sponsors of the bill, and help us to move the bill forward.
Well, let me
once
ask
they
you
know
this
the
question.
value of their people's opinions.
Did you think of just asking the legislator to submit a bill instead of going through this process?
We believe that it's more important that the legislature feels what the people want. That it's so important for a legislator to represent his people. And so by doing this in certain areas, you know, geographically around the state, we're hoping that they get a sense of that this is not just something that one group wants.
I see.
Carole can tell you, there are like 1,000 bills that are brought forth each year.
4,000, yeah, maybe even more.
You're kidding me, really?
Each year, how many bills?
Maybe even more. At this last session, we had over 3,000 bills.
Wow.
And so that's a lot of
How many
research.
reach the floor?
Oh, you know,
How many die in
hundreds.
committee?
You know, many do. You know why? Just talking about the bill process for a minute.
Sure.
Because there's always
You're the
more
expert.
to everything. No, but there's always more to everything.
Yeah.
And you know, again, this is a new one, so we'll look at this as we move forward. But like anything else, it might open up, well, who else? What other licensed doctors are performing procedures in offices that are not licensed law offices? Could dermatologists possibly fit in that realm as well? You know, we just saw Joan Rivers had an incident, and some people say, I don't know if that's true, that there might have been an issue with the office that she was in, and while the doctors were licensed, maybe the clinic wasn't. So there's a lot of questions that come about. You know, I think, you know, all groups like B's group, Citizens for Life, have their passions and their issues and their interests, and they bring them forward, and that's how things happen. And that's how things happen.
Let me ask you this, Carole, Representative. Could you just give a brief idea of how a bill might make its way, just briefly? Let's say
that's a really good point, because
you know, let's say there's a lot of interest in this area, overwhelming. You get together with your other two colleagues, Alan Sylvia, Paul Schmidt, and you say, you know, maybe we should.
Any bill.
It could be this bill or any bill.
Any bill could be put forth. It gets assigned a number, and then House Counsel would review it for the right language, and then it would get assigned to a committee. And then a committee, it would get assigned by the clerk or others to decide where it should go.
So if it was a housing bill, it would go to maybe a housing subcommittee?
Yeah, you know, there could be a number of areas it could go in. If it has financial implications, healthcare implications, maybe in this case, or others. So it would be assigned an appropriate committee. Not maybe perfect fit, but one. And from there would be hearings, there would be discussion, there would be research, there would be input. You know, there's always
citizens,
citizens
like
pro, citizens against, businesses. It could be on any bill. It could be any number of people to weigh in. And
now,
believe me, in my
we
experience, Richard, in my 1 year sitting on committees and watching bills come forward, even the most innocuous bills, you wouldn't believe the information that comes forward. So a committee reviews it. It either comes out of the committee in a vote, or it just stays in committee.
Okay, so if it stays in committee, is that what they call the bill died in committee?
Well, it could die in committee at the end of the session, unless it gets sent out of committee, and then it can get reintroduced. I'll give you a quick example. There was a recent bill that we passed this year on gas leaks. You know, we had an incident in Somerset as a perfect example, where someone's gas pipe exploded and a woman was tragically killed.
Yeah.
And so there had been a bill in session, I guess, filed many times about these old gas pipes throughout the infrastructure that we have. As you know, our infrastructure is aged, and so there had been some identified leaks. This was one tragic situation of many that had happened. And so a bill was finally passed after many, many years, filed and filed again, of input and let's use the word compromise, because every bill that I've seen come through the House and Senate this year, and I'll use examples of Valor Act 2, the Welfare Reform Bill, our drug abuse bill,
so
all come about based on everyone's input.
Well, so it gets into committee, and then if it gets a favorable approval, how does it get to the floor? Does it go from committee to the floor?
Well, then it would go, it goes from the committee. If it gets voted out of committee, it could go to Ways and Means, and to look at any and all financial implications. It would go to get to the floor, it has to then go through several readings.
Okay.
And it has to go to a committee in third reading.
Now, a bill that passed over the weekend, I'm just using it as not this weekend. As
The
a gym.
upskirting one is probably the
Yeah.
only one. The upskirting bill, for the viewers that are listening, oftentimes a bill will come about because of some kind of an emerging a malfunction in the system that there is no law against it, or something like that. So this was one of them. There were women being photographed, and it didn't fit under, and this was happening all over the place. And it was not an isolated incident. It wasn't a one-time thing. It was happening, and of course, with the emerging technology that we've seen today, that's been a new frontier. And so this had been happening in a rampant fashion, which was, so this bill was a remedy that was, when the speaker and the Senate president and the governor come together, when they come together in the trilogy, if you will, of full force,
action.
that's and that is a rare occasion to see that happen, because everything seems like it might make sense until everyone weighs in. And so it's a deliberative process, and it was devised to be that way.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Richard, what Carole was just talking about, the gas leaks and the Somerset incident, is kind of similar what would happen to a bill if Massachusetts Citizens for Life had gone about just the regular process of just submitting the bill. But just like in Somerset, we really had an unnecessary death. Here in Hyannis, we had an unnecessary death. And we want to prevent that from going forward. And so we're hoping that bringing this publicity to the public gives them a sense of what we're looking to accomplish in protecting women. I can't think of anything more valuable than the life and of a woman and a child. And so we're hoping that this will really make a difference. I just want to tell the viewers that a yes vote will ensure life-saving equipment and services will be there for that woman. Not only life-saving equipment, but also the staff will be trained in life-saving measures. Whereas a no vote will mean that facilities can go unlicensed,
As they are now.
uninspected, as they are now. Some of them may be good, but I think even one or two that cares more about profit than about women is something that shouldn't
this
be.
seems a little strange. I mean, if you want to drive a car, you have to get a license. If you own a dog, you got to get a license.
And I think you're talking about probably the certain clinics, because all of the Planned Parenthood agencies that are in the state,
They are
all
licensed.
licensed clinics. I think you're probably talking about a couple of emergencies in the doctor's office as the exception, but yet
They're
they
real
should.
facilities. I know of some. There's one in Haverhill, there's one in Lynn that we know of. Unfortunately, because they're not licensed, we don't really have data to identify them all.
And that's the stuff
specifically.
that comes out in this
Yeah.
stuff, so that's good information that you'll get.
Well, Carole, what's going on in the city of Fall River in regards to, we might say, state action, state inaction? We've got the Braga Bridge. It seems to be a perpetual work in progress. Train? Okay, everyone's interested in the train.
Yeah.
Where is the train?
Well, we have never been in a better position than we are right now, which shows progress. As you know, the legislature passed a transportation bond bill this past session, which included specifically a carve-out of ended up $2.5 billion specifically for South Coast Rail, and among other transportation and infrastructure projects because, as you know, our infrastructure is crumbling after built in the 1950s. Everything's getting a little older, including myself. But the South Coast Rail project, and so who is our next governor is going to be critical to the success moving forward of South Coast Rail. This current governor has now, at the end of his tenure, has done something significant with just signed a $210 million contract to move to design-build phase for South Coast Rail. And that's going to be over the next several years, upwards of 10 years.
Now, will that, how is that, if it's going to be, match up with the work on Route 79?
Okay. Well, the Route 79 project right now is actually a separate project, which is wonderful because that is such an that's part of the.
Will that blend in with the?
It will be beautiful.
Train.
Yes.
Well, you know.
Yes. If it all, it's all being planned to accommodate the train, so train stations, train stops.
Now, where's
over
the
near
train
the
station
gates.
going to be?
Well, there's stops, and so there's one over, which was sort of like the original one over behind North Main Street. I'm drawing
Weaver's
a blank.
Cove?
Not Weaver's Cove. No. Off North Main Street. You take that bend after the Price, not Price Right, the Rite Aid Pharmacy. There's a new little market on the corner going toward Durfee Street. Right there, there's going to be a station there.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, on the waterfront down near the gates, there'll be a stop-off point as well.
All right. So Weaver's Cove, no?
Weaver's Cove has now, what you're talking about is layover.
Yeah.
So it's part of the plan. And while there's been much discussion about the layover being on the Weaver's Cove, we know that the No LNG group is very adamantly against using a piece of that property for a layover. What's happened is everyone said, okay, just to get things moving, because we're a long way off from any, the land is still privately owned. It really is just a plan for where the layover is now.
Yeah.
It could end up somewhere different. That's sort of an conceptual plan for that location as a layover, but it's still not set in stone yet. And there's a lot of discussion to happen about that. But what is positive and happening right now is the fact there's a lot of preparation on our tracks and our bridges. We have 3 railroad bridges currently under renovation. The one at the bottom of President Avenue, you'll be seeing construction there. You have the one at the Country Club, and you have the one at Brownell Street. Those are 3 of the bridges that are being redone.
Now, we have Cook Pond on the south end of Fall River. A lot of discussion about Cook Pond over the years. We actually have an organization now called Friends of Cook Pond.
Great.
I guess the state appropriated some money to redo Henry Street. Henry Street leads from Laurel Street, and it goes down to where the wharf is, the Matcuss. There was a wharf there, which is really deteriorated. Any news about that project?
As you know, that is not in my district. However, I do know that there's a lot of emphasis and a lot of energy, both by Rep. Sylvia and your group, to make sure that gets attention. And I see that happening at some point. I think that every time we have a chance to advocate for funds for various projects, whether it's through an environmental bond bill or other bills and budgets, we want to do so. Just like we have the Quikochan Rail Trail project right now that's finally going to become a reality. The bike paths, et cetera, that has been in the planning stages for many, many years. And I know down at Cook Pond, that's a very, very perfect spot for recreation.
Well, a beach, a small beach.
Whether it's a beach, whether it's boating, whether it's canoeing,
Get some
what a
sand
beautiful
trucks.
spot.
Get some sand trucks down there and make a beach.
It's a
Light little community beach in the south end.
Richard goes like this, make a beach. It's the simplest thing ever. Everything. There is no such thing as simple. However, I'm going to tell you something. Based on your passion and that neighborhood and advocacy, those are how things get done.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we're going to see these kind of improvements.
We're going to see a beach there.
There you go. And you're going to go swimming.
Well, I did swim in that pond.
At one time.
Oh,
Richard,
yeah.
there's so many
That
good
was my little,
hangout when you were young?
hang out, swimming, boating, fishing. I mean, it was a fantastic, and it still is, resource. But it's been forgotten over the years somewhat.
Neglected.
So I'm going to just make an announcement, and it has to do with Friends of Cook Pond, because we're going to have the Friends of Cook Pond dinner dance. That's going to be held October 25th at the VFW in Tiverton. That's on Shove Street. Doors are going to open at 6 o'clock. Tickets are $15. We're going to have a nice chicken dinner, and that's all you can eat. Cake, coffee, dessert, so salad, and thereafter we're going to have dancing. Tickets are only $15, so get your tickets. You can see me or someone on the committee.
Are you
So-
cooking, Richard? $15.
No,
Wow,
he's not.
that's a bargain.
Hartley's chicken pies.
Yes.
Oh, wow,
You
delicious.
get a nice quarter slice, and if you want another slice, go up and get it. I mean,
That's a
taking
bargain, Richard.
Joe and I have gone quite a few times
yeah,
to these
yeah,
events.
you can attest to.
And we can attest to the quality of the food, the friendliness of the staff,
Wow.
all the volunteers, and it's kind of
Dancing?
nice
You
to
and Joe
dance.
get on the
Yes,
floor
we get out
after?
and
Right.
dance.
And we
Yeah.
film it, you know, for posterity, and of course, to
It's a
promote
wonderful-
Cook Pond.
That's
It's a
nice.
wonderful event.
Yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful, we have so many.
Your family's from that area,
My family was from Hall Street.
so
That's where my father was from, Polish. That was then when neighborhoods were, you know,
absolutely.
the French neighborhood, the
Yes.
Portuguese neighborhood, and the Polish. And it brings back some
Right
great. I
next
remember
door.
going to Kist Bottling, Kist to get my
Oh,
soda. Yeah,
that's right.
Teddy Kosan and Kist
Yeah.
Bottling.
Right on Hall
But
Street.
that would be a whole reminiscent.
Yeah.
I'm already reminiscing, and that was when you'd go pick out your soda
Those
for the
were
week.
fun days, weren't they?
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But people like you, Richard, who are
Chocolate
passionate.
soda?
Chocolate, no, never. Cream soda.
Oh, cream.
Cream soda. A passionate
Strawberry
advocacy,
soda?
Richard, will be a big help to making Cook Pond happen.
Yeah,
It's a
we want
beautiful
you to-
natural resource, and we're there to
And
we're
you're
there to
welcome to
support.
stop by, say a few
Thank
words,
you.
let the public know, you know, that the state is actually looking down here.
You know what, Richard? The state is giving this is aware of our area. We have one of the largest construction projects going on in the state right now, right here in Fall River, the Braga Bridge and the Route 79, and we're not done yet. So let me tell you, your delegation, all of us, are working very hard to make sure Boston always knows. And there's so many things happening we didn't even get a chance to talk about.
No, half
And,
hour goes by fast.
It's very fast.
But you're always welcome to come back and be the same. We're getting down to the end of the program. Carol, any predictions from the state? Anything that you might want to predict that might be happening?
No, I would like to predict that on November 4th, I'm hoping to get reelected to serve a full term. I hope that my work in this community has shown through, and I'd be honored for the people to vote
Okay.
me back in.
November 4th. Carol Fiola, B, anything? We get just a few
Yes,
seconds
I would love
left.
to say, go out and vote. Carol and I need everybody to go out and vote. It's your
Okay.
patriotic duty and
Thank you,
privilege.
ladies, for being on the program, and don't forget, you're always welcome to come back. Thank you out there for watching. It's always a pleasure to be here, believe me. And I always learn something from my guests, so we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.